Good morning. There's a big note here that says turn off all cell phones. Sometime last October, close to 300 of us sat down in this very theater and watched a movie called Court from India and another one called Summer of San Gail from Lithuania, and thus started a process that will finish itself tomorrow evening at the Dolby Theater. The Academy has been awarding a foreign language Oscar since 1956. It happened to go to Federico Fellini's La Strada. Those of us who participate in this year's nomination process are part of a long and very proud tradition, and in some sort of unconscious way, those 300 of us that Monday night were aware of the responsibility and the importance of this process. I have felt for many years that the Foreign Language Oscar is in many ways the most important Oscar that this Academy can give out, because it helps remind us in the Academy that we're not just an American one, but a truly international category that celebrates not just what Hollywood has to offer, but what the world has to offer. Those of us immersed in the Hollywood filmmaking can lose sight of the fact that so much of what is being told on the international screen is being told so differently and sometimes so much better than what we are doing here in the so-called heart of the movie-making capital. Every year I look at our 5 nominated films and I say they're so much better than the ones that are nominated in that other category. I'm just saying. I'm reminded every year of the significance that the Foreign Language Oscar has, not just to the filmmakers of the nominated countries or the filmmakers of those films, but to the filmmakers of those countries and to the national cinemas that are submitting those films. Often it'll give pride to a struggling film industry, and often, quite frankly, it will be the impetus for governmental support of those filmmakers. I'm very proud of the Foreign Language Committee, of its dedication, of its passion, and of its integrity. Everybody on that committee should be commended. And with that said, I would like those members of the Academy's Foreign Language Film Selection Committee who are here right now to please stand and identify yourselves. Before I introduce the directors of our nominated films, I would like to share with you some clips from all 5 movies. These clips will hint at the pleasures and satisfaction that each one of these movies has to offer. And for those of you who haven't seen the movies, these will indeed be true teasers.
Yukuna. Yukana wa? Wona. Gobe wana?
Nihara? Nihara?
Wana karamba kate na nari ya keru.
Dia dia mana?
Mandukan ni ca. Beri buku di nane. Ya impat aku menyebuan cong. Barang ni canya tak.
Dia empat lain mayu. Mau apa ui kau dah? Dia dia mana?
Teo ni dah. Ca muka nane ca muka. Ni dah baik ca mah. Yo ko gung mana ada kita tahu mana ada ega. Terus ca ni kumari kan ikut.
Dia mau apa mau? Ina nak kata pakai mau ni.
Tanya iri kori cau ni. Na cibar nur ini na ini ke.
Aku ni jago.
Ni
Aku jago. Kau jangan.
Me regaló un paye cuyano.
Mentiroso. Los coiguanos no existen.
Sí existen. Estuve con ellos hace unos años.
Mentira.
Hay un par. Il benchi andiamo a frio di ieri. E cari più bajo de vacre.
Dạy cái chứ mày. Mọi người bồi cái là bùa bắt được cái mày. Dạy cái chứ mày.
Forsikring. Jeg kalder op til 3-5. Jeg har det.
3-5 her main gate. Vi har civile på vej mod main gate skift.
Jeg står venstre.
Ja.
Her er 3-5. Vi har nu de 4 lokale i London. De er afsøgte. Jeg står frem med tolken. Slut. Ja, har de lukket gaten igen.
Kommandant साहब की खबर उस सरों को तालिबान फसाबी ढेर फसाब करी हो.
Okay. Jamen, han siger, at han har talt med vores kommander, og hvis de skulle få nogle problemer, hvis Taliban skulle være på nakken af dem, så vil han hjælpe.
6-0 her er 3-5. Den lokale afghanske mand, cirka 60-65 år. Han synes at kende til såkaldt commander. Det må være KC, han mener.
لا خبر سروं को kommandant साहब राइस उस.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Salam. Sari masa.
Assalamu alaikum.
Zamortadi. Zamortadi. Allah. Så.
Jamen, han siger, at selvom I går patruljer ude i landsbyen om dagen, så om natten, så kommer Taliban. Han siger, at Taliban ved, at vi har hjulpet hans datter. Nu vil de have, at han bliver kriger, ellers så slår de hans familie ihjel.
Sig til ham, vi kommer i morgen og sikrer landsbyen. Og så kan vi tvinge Taliban væk fra området.
No, sababa kele tevlar تتوش Taliban pushić amniyat bamugusat.
Ja, så langt på der khima ki koma. Det er chiri na zama.
Han siger, jeg går hjem, jeg bliver nødt til at sove i teltet herinde. Nu er det næsten ikke helt imkan næste.
Der خبر النص. ما ولا تبين اوري.
Jeg beklager, I bliver nødt til.
تبين اوري.
Magal.
ترى غلط جبنارك.
Jeg beklager.
Imkan næste. Bakhshana guaram.
I bliver nødt til at tage hjem nu.
ما تسكر ها.
Vent. Sæt din dreng ned. Sæt din dreng ned. Sæt ham ned.
Aramashe.
Sæt ham ned.
Lutfan.
Afvent.
ما ونص.
Afvent.
Så kommer klasser.
Jeg har selv 3 børn.
Wait, parapilla drema shuman larum.
Jeg forstår godt din situation.
Så stasu bedarban de pohijum.
Men for vi kan hjælpe jer, bliver jeg nødt til at tage hjem.
Magar bayar kort tevlar shu.
Smaksnyan amniyat na liri urta. Staknyan qalta amniyat liri.
Dine børn bor jo i sikkerhed.
Smaksnyan birizi beray tur savet herol urta.
Han siger, hvis de går tilbage, så bliver de slået ihjel.
O da tatlı akıllı komak da işte komak var sana bakayım. Yan zıysam da zaman. Da mak sen var
Han siger, tag jer børnene. Så går jeg. Hans børn bliver slået ihjel. Vi skal jo alligevel tilbage til landsbyen i morgen.
Stop det der.
Nerede kelime Taliban değil. Da savaka mı surta?
Hvad skal jeg gøre?
Vi kommer ned i morgen. Vi sikrer området, vi tvinger Taliban væk. Vi skal nok beskytte dig. Vi skal nok beskytte din familie. Du har mit ord.
Rytter, klar med porten.
Bare
kort til dig, Fawzi. Bırak da o seni. Hiç komak monavakın mesela. Dörde içi zo. Ha. Dörde. Dörde içi zo.
De kan ikke være her.
Tutma ayağını kızım, doğru yürü. Şurada oturalım. Dur bakayım, dur sen gel şimdi. Şey yapın kızlar. Gidin şu çeşmeye bir gidin, hadi.
Anne, ne yapacağız çeşmede?
Kızım bir gidin gelin, ben de o sırada limonataları söyleyeyim, hadi.
Buradan mı su çekmişiz? Hayat çeşmesi bu.
Babaanne işe bizi göstermekle başladı. Ve birkaç gün sonra eve işçiler geldi.
Farkındayım da yani bunu bana söylemen gerekmiyor mu? Anlamadım ki ya.
Sen bir varsın yoksun, ne yapayım? Çağırdım ustalar işte, yükseltiyorlar.
Bu sefer ev gerçekten bir hapishaneye dönüştü.
Ben sana bu top buraya gelmeyecek demedim mi? Al şunu orada oyna.
Babaanne, misafir geliyor.
Geliyorlar mı? Kızım saçını tara, üzerine de doğru dürüst bir şey giy. Hadi. Sonay, Selma. Aa! Ne o hal? Ne o hal? Çabuk üstüne bir şey giy. Doğru dürüst ve çıplak ayak. Hadi koş Lale kızım, hadi sen de. Sen de giyin yavrum. Hadi çabuk çabuk çabuk. Bu zamanlarda da çocuk yetiştirmek çok zor değil mi? Zor değil mi? Evet, çok zor. Evet, gerçekten. Ya evet. Hakikaten. Erkek çocuğu da öyle. Evet, ama kızımız geldi. Evet.
Aa maşallah. Ne kadar güzel.
Çok güzel. Değil mi? Bir tane.
Çok güzel.
Sonaycığım, bize bir çay servisi yapar mısın yavrum?
Babaannesiyle konuşmak istiyorum.
Kusura bakmayın.
Babaanne, ben ikini seviyorum. Eğer beni ondan başka biriyle evlendirmeye kalkarsan çığlığı basarım.
Ne diyorsun sen? Tamam. Tamam ama o çocuğu bir daha görmek istiyorsan gelsin istesin seni. Evet. Neticede bugün çay servisini Selma yapacak.
Maşallah. Çok da güzel.
Beğendiniz mi Selma'yı?
Beğendik. Maşallah.
O da bir tanedir. Hadi kızım çayları dağıt. Hanımefendinin oğlu Osman askerden yeni dönmüş Selma'cığım. Ben de istiyorum ki bütün torunlarımı evlendireyim, mürüvvetini göreyim ölmeden önce haliyle. Oğlumuz şu anda nerede? Hoş geldin Osman oğlum.
Hoş bulduk.
Gel, gel otur şuraya. Tanışıyor musunuz siz?
Simay.
Nasılsın yavrum?
Sağ olun, siz nasılsınız?
İyiyim, teşekkür ederim.
Beğendin mi onu?
Öyle sormayın, utanıyorlar. Gençler bunlar da. Ama ısınacaklar birbirlerine.
İnşallah zamanla alışacaklar
İnşallah.
birbirlerine.
Ne yapalım? İsterseniz beyleri de çağıralım. Onlardan rica edelim. Bu işi bir tamamına erdirsinler.
Hemen mi?
Neden olmasın? Herhalde çocuklar birbirlerini beğendiler. Öyle gözüküyor değil mi?
Hai peccato questo. Mietek, Kommando, was? Warum ist er hier? Red halt den Neuk. Warte.
Na, was ist los? Kriegst du dein Kommando nicht auf Trab oder was?
Und du siehst, halt's Maul.
Das hast du.
Paliczko! Mówiłem, nie będziesz na jedną sztukę! Za dużo dymu, kurwa!
Verdammt, der Mietek.
Konstantin!
Verrichte dir.
Ich hab gesagt, du willst
Leute, verstehst? Alter Neuk.
So viel Rauch! Co to zrobił, kurwa? Ruszać się, ruszać! Dawaj, dawaj! Kurwa!
Was soll denn das?
To jest przerwa! Pracować, pracować!
Ja, mal für dich arbeiten.
Szybciej, kurwa, szybciej! Do roboty! Skąd ten dym? Skąd ten dym, kurwa? Skąd, kurwa, ten dym?
Du,
Zu viel Rauch!
fertig.
Zu viel Rauch!
Du,
Zu viel Rauch!
weg. Luis! Was, Luis? Wo gehst du? Halt! Stehen bleiben! Schluss komm her! Schluss da!
تواجه ان شاء الله. رايحين تواجه.
يلا بخاطرك يا شيخ.
مع السلامة.
شان شان شان
ما انا قلت خلعي لازم انك واضح انت خلعي بدنا نسوي فيه I don't care about the boy. My house. ما نقدر شوفوا أمانة طبعا مين ترجع عليه؟
He made his way here. He didn't find his way back.
وين
Come on.
ما نقدر نخلي عيد نقدر نخرج وش يقول؟ ضروري تمشي نروح اليوم وردة والله ما نقدر يا أخوي بدي أروح أشيل شاور ما يرد
Boy, watching and listening to those clips on this screen reminds me why DVDs don't cut it. Phew. All of them. All of them. For the first time in my recollection, and I've been doing this for a while now, all of the directors of our 5 nominated movies are under the age of 40. They're all in their 30s. This is a remarkable statistic, made even more remarkable by the fact that 3 of these filmmakers are nominated here today for their very first film. The fact that these movies are coming from such young voices and from 3 distinct continents is nothing short of inspirational. We are used to awarding in this category to seasoned filmmakers, people like Michael Haneke, Paolo Sorrentino, Asghar Farhadi, Susanna Bier. The fact that these filmmakers today virtually come from out of nowhere and made the kind of impact they did on an international stage is part bewildering, partly encouraging, and partly exhilarating. Yet, I've noticed that their youth has not dictated that they ignore the past. I would put forth that all of these movies are obsessed with the very pull of past traditions, restrictions, and histories. And all of these movies somehow are about the survival and endurance in the past. Not only is young Thebe fending for himself alone in the desert, but whether he knows it or not, he is defending the threatened Bedouin culture from the modern technological world invading his sands. Laleh, the youngest sister from Mustang, is fighting desperately against the pull of restrictive traditions of a world she wants no part of. The same can be said in a very complicated way for Embrace of the Serpent, where the shaman Kara Makate is trying indomitably to regain what the white rubber marauders have stolen from his disappearing culture. Needless to say, in Son of Saul, Saul himself, faced with sudden death and incomprehensible despair, finds a son from his past, real or imagined, the only thing that keeps him moving forward, fighting against his horrific present day. Even in a war, a very modern day story, is the past Afghani history that complicates and morally dooms Commander Klaus as he fights for his troops' survival in the battlefield and his own survival in the courtroom. I think it's interesting to point out that in Embrace of the Serpent, Kara Makate is trying valiantly to reclaim the history of his people, while young Laleh from Mustang is trying just as hard to escape from the history of hers. 3 of these movies are actually set in the past, although all 5 of them feel like they are in the grips of history. It is the pull of the past that is at the thematic core of all 5 of these films, and it is the conflict with the past that each filmmaker and his or her protagonist are fighting against in an attempt to survive. So while our directors are in their filmic infancy, their characters and concerns couldn't be more mature. At this point, I want to introduce the directors. Unfortunately, Denise Gams-Aragvanam, the helmer of Mustang, is not able to join us this morning because she was in Paris last night for the César Awards, where she won the award for very first film. She will, however, be at the ceremony tomorrow. She's on a plane as we speak. It is very rare that we don't have all 5 directors here, but I'll make sure that the 4 who are here pull double duty. Embrace of the Serpent is Colombia's first Oscar nomination, and I'd like to introduce its director, Ciro Guerra. And before we bring up anyone else, you can keep that if you like. It's got your name on it, yeah. Would you kindly introduce us to anybody who's here from your cast and crew? And you told me earlier there are a lot of people here, right?
Yes, this is a very special moment for Colombia. first time nominated. It's been 100 years of Colombian cinema, so this there's been a long way getting here. So it's great to be here with so many people from our cast and crew. I'd like to name first a very special person that we have with us, which is Antonio Bolivar, straight from the Amazon, one of the last surviving members of the Coihuano people, and a great star of our film. Antonio Bolivar, please. I'd also like to please welcome the two actors that took the biggest challenge that I have ever given to an actor, which is to invite them to a film, to not only come to a foreign country to work in the jungle, but to come and do it in indigenous language. So these are very special people that took this challenge, and they did it with honesty and such level of commitment that was inspiring to me, and that showed me that this film, which seemed impossible, would be possible. Please welcome Jan Vijboet from Belgium, and Brion Davis, who lives in LA, from Austin, Texas. We have also the person here who believed in the film when no one else did. For 5 years, we spent together trying to make this film, and for 3 years, it looked like this film wasn't going to be possible. And there was a point in which I thought, maybe everyone is right, and this is not going to be possible, but there was one person who said, we can do it, and that person is Cristina Gallego, the producer. We have my co-screenwriter, Jacques Toulemont, who really took me out of the pit of this labyrinthine script. And the unbelievable cinematographer, David Gallego, who shot 35mm film. We have production designer Angelica Perea, who did a thorough research of the Amazonian people and their costumes and their iconography and put it on the film. And makeup and hair designer Ana Maria Jauregui, who really did a thorough research on how Amazonian people paint themselves and made this whole world believable. Thank you, Ana. I also have the sound designer of the film, Carlos Garcia, who is responsible for this immersive sound design. And our associate producer, David Corredor, who was here with us all throughout the process. And I don't see him, but is Gonzalo Cordova here? Gonzalo, are you here? Oh, he's in the back. He's the visionary producer who said, you can do this film in black and white, I believe in you, and he gave us the funding that allowed this film to exist. So please, I think he's the only head of a TV channel in the world who will approve a film like this. And so it was only him, and he did it. Thank you, Gonzalo. I'm sorry if I forgot anyone. Oh, sure. We have Raul, our Venezuelan co-producer. Raul Bravo, where are you? Oh, yeah. See, this is a co-production with Venezuela and Argentina. And Andres Barrientos, who coached the actors from different worlds and put them to work on the same note. Thank you, Andres. A lot of people, sorry.
Sarah told me that one of the first calls you got after the nomination was from the president of the country, right?
Yes, President Santos, he called and he was extremely overjoyed. He's a cinephile and he believed in that supporting Colombian cinema was important 15 years ago, and he was one of the people who put forward the film law that allows us to make this kind of films, because without government support, these films are not possible in Colombia.
Our next director was an Oscar nominee 2 years ago because he co-wrote The Hunt, and he is the director of this year's film from Denmark, A War, and that is Tobias Lindholm. Tobias, who is here from your film?
Oh, listen, I'm a screenwriter, so usually I'm the drummer in somebody else's band, right? And now finally I get to play the lead guitar. So I brought my wonderful rock band. The first guy you'll meet is a very special person to me. We started out together straight out of film school, straight out of acting school. We've been working and sharing lives ever since. Please meet the lead of the film, Pilou Asbæk. The next one is a fantastic actress. I have not worked with her before. I hope that we can continue to work together after this. Please meet Tuva Novotny. Oh, this is great. I've been taking all the honor for so long and you're all here now. My DOP, a very hard-working man. We've been together for 3 films now. I'm so happy you're here. Magnus Jönk. A great guy who told me everything I know about sound, because I didn't know anything when we started this. Hard-working man as well, Morten Gren. I brought my 2 producers, or they brought me. Please meet René Ezra and Thomas Rador. And as was, I couldn't have done this film without veterans from the Danish army, people who spent time in Afghanistan and was brave enough to share their experiences, their nightmares, and their victories with me. Please welcome Martin, Daniel, and Daniel. I know my wonderful editor is in town. I had vodka with him last night, but I guess that's why he's not here now. So, Adam Nilsson is not here.
Our third director is the Hungarian director of Son of Saul, and that's Laszlo Nemes. Laszlo, any of your cast and crew here with you?
Yes, good morning. Great to be here. So I can't see anything as usual. I'm so sad that Geza Rörik, who's the main actor in the film, couldn't make it, but it's Shabbat. It doesn't want to. I just want some people in the room to feel bad for being here. But his spirit is here, let's say that. I have my friend and cinematographer who shot this film on 35mm, and we were in it together. We've been talking about this film for 8 years, and I'm so glad he's here, Matya Shade. 3 members of the cast to represent a little bit the fact that this film has a lot of languages, 8 or 9, and includes Yiddish. We wanted this Babel of languages as it was in the camps to exist in the film, and we had an incredible person who's not here today from Israel, who's a Yiddish who tries to make the Yiddish language continue to exist, although the Yiddish language in Europe has been destroyed more or less, unfortunately. But these 3 cast members are from different countries, and they all believed in this adventure, although it was it was ambitious and it didn't really make sense that this first-time director should make a film about the Holocaust. So I'm glad that 3 of them are here. Amitai Kedar from Israel is here with us. Levente Monar from Romania, although she's Hungarian speaking and Romanian speaking. And from the US, Todd Charmont, who lives in Berlin. And my two producers are here, two Gabors who made this adventure possible, and they really believed in this project from the very beginning, although no one in Europe did. So I thank them for being here, Gabor Sipos and Gabor Rajna. They look like a duo to me. Do I forget? And I do forget my sound designer, but I know. But apart from him, no. So the incredible sound designer on this film, I made 3 short films with him, and I told him when I met him that this film would be 50% sound, and he kind of believed it, but I don't think he really measured what it meant. But 4 months and a half after sound post-production, I think he didn't laugh anymore, and I'm glad he's here, Tamás Zányi. So that's my crew thank you.
I'm very impressed. All of you have singled out your producers. That doesn't happen a lot. And our last director directed the first ever Jordanian nominated film, and that is Nazi Abu Noir. Nazi, who is here from your film?
Hello, is it working? I guess what? So most of the people that made this film are first-timers, and we were a very low-budget guerrilla film. But there was one sort of star, which was our cinematographer, Wolfgang Thaler, and he really took a chance on us. He came out, and he was much more than an amazing cinematographer. He was sort of a mentor for us throughout the process, and I'm very happy to say that he's here today, Wolfgang Thaler. And I also have my wonderful producers who I think are sick and tired of me by now as well. Basil Randor, who came up with the concept for the film, and it was based on his short film script, who also co-wrote the film. Rupert Lloyd, who I've made all my films with, and also edited the film, and Laith Majali, the wonderful Laith Majali, who was with me in the desert transcribing Bedouin dialect. So they're much more than producers as well, they're collaborators. I also have the wonderful English actor Jack Fox, who had to come out and sort of enter a completely different world, move out to the desert and learn to ride a camel, which is pretty difficult, and he's here today as well. Thank you, Jack. And last but certainly not least, representing the last tribe to be settled in the region and the community that hosted us for a year and showed me generosity I can't even describe. One of the most incredible experiences of my life, and they're the stars of the film, and I'm so honored that they've been able to come out. We've come out all the way out from the desert in Wadi Rum to Hollywood, and we'll attend the Oscars tomorrow. My lead actor Jasser Eid and the stranger Hassan Mutlaq. And I'm a little nervous, so Rupert, wave to me if I've forgotten someone. We okay? On your head, be it. Okay.
Fantastic. It looks like the entire front row here then is full of cast and crew. One of the questions I always ask every year that I think most people want to know about is, quite frankly, is the genesis of each film. Why make this film now? What compelled you to do it? And then what were the steps in getting it financed? Because all 4 of your films are not obvious films, must not have been difficult films must have been very difficult films to put together. So Ciro, what about you? Where did you come up with the idea of doing this very unique, one-of-a-kind film, and what were the steps of getting it financed?
Yes, making a film in the Amazon was a lifelong dream of mine. It's a region that is half my country, and it's a region that is so unknown to me. It's been forever a big mystery. It's a region that we know very little about. We haven't heard many stories from there. We don't know it. We didn't know its cultures and its history, and I was so interested in just stepping away from everything that I'd known and take a journey into the unknown and invite the viewer into this journey into the unknown. So when I started doing some research and I found the stories of the journals of 2 explorers who were the first ones to go into Colombian Amazon when it was uncharted territory, early 20th century still, and the stories that they told and the way in which they brought forward the knowledge that was that had forever been neglected and almost exterminated, and the way they came up and said, this is a knowledge that is important to us and that we can learn something from them. It was revolutionary at the time, and sadly it's still revolutionary now. And I just started reading about these stories that they told, and I realized that the Amazonian knowledge, Amazonian way of thinking, of seeing the world, still matters now, and I think it matters now more than ever. And I just felt that something that was millennia old was speaking to me, to my contemporary, and to my contemporary time. So it's once that happened, there was no way out. I had to make the film. But when we said, this is the next film that we want to make, everyone said, all right, good luck. All our previous backers and all of our...
And this was your 3rd film, right?
Yes, I had done 2 previous films, and the last film also, we were very happy with it, did very well, it played in Cannes and everything, and we thought it was going to be easy to make another film. But when we came up with this film, people said, this is not something that we can understand. This is a black and white film in indigenous language. This is not going to exactly be a blockbuster. So and we got a little funding from the Hoover-Bals Fund for research, and with that little small funding, we spent 3 years researching, putting together the script. I started delving deep into Amazonian storytelling and Amazonian knowledge, and I became lost. It's just a maze I was lost in a maze for a long time. But then we got some support from the Colombian funding, very small, with putting together the film. We had co-producers from Europe in our previous films, and we got no support from Europe for this film. Everyone said, this is not going to be a film that is possible to make and that no one is going to understand, and we don't see it. It's too narrative for some, it's too experimental for some, it's just not, it was crazy. So, but when, I think there was a switch at one moment, and it was the moment in which we came to the Amazonian people and we said, even if we have to do it on our cell phone, we're going to make this film. And we need your help, and we need your permission to do this film in these places that are sacred to you, and we need you to be a part of the film. All the elders of the region in which we shot, they looked at us, and they said, okay, I think we can trust you. So I think this is going to be fine, so you can do it. At that moment, Cristina broke down in tears. And from that moment, things started to change, and we felt that the film was protected, and we got the funding that we needed, much less than we had originally budgeted, but we got the funding that we needed. Gonzalo Cordova from Caracol said, unbelievably, we came to him and said he was basically the last saving grace, that we wanted to come to him with the project in the better shape. And he just looked at us. He understands the importance that the Amazon has for the world. And him and Dago Garcia from Caracol TV said, we never done this kind, this is not the obvious choice, but let's take a chance and do this film. And the film got made.
And did anybody try and talk you out of black and white? Did they offer you more money if you did it in color?
No. But I'm just mind blown at the idea that I came to them and saying, the first thing we said, we're going to do this film, we explained the story and everything, and they said, okay, we love it, let's do it. But then we came back and we said, for like a couple of weeks afterwards, we were thinking, we have to tell them that it's in black and white. And it's like, are you sure? Maybe we can keep it hidden, so keep it a secret until the premiere.
Start shooting, right?
Maybe until the premiere, But no, they had to know. So we came and he said, you know what, this film is in black and white. And Gonzalo looked at us and said, oh, really? Huh. Like, give me a day to think about it. But he had the book of Schultes on his table, and those were those stunning black and white photographs that the explorers took. And I knew, Gonzalo knows what we're talking about. Gonzalo understands. And the next day he came, all right, let's do it. Let's go for it. And there was no turning back.
That's fantastic. Tobias, what about you? You have so many things that you're writing. I know. I have a pretty good idea of what you've been up to and which directors you've been working with, and writing for yourself. But what about this one? At what point did you say I've got to make this movie?
Denmark has never been part of, haven't been to war since Second World War, and that was just 5 hours, and then we gave up. Well, but then came 9/11, and Denmark went in pretty fast to Iraq and Afghanistan. Of course, we've been part of peacekeeping missions in Balkan, but it's not the same. So we became the warfaring generation, and I knew right away that I wanted to do a film about that. I felt it has defined my generation more than anything else. I feel that it has defined the country we live in now, and it's going to define the future we're entering. But I couldn't find the story. I couldn't find my way in. I've seen a lot of these post-Vietnam films from here, from the 70s and 80s, and they've been great. And I didn't want to make a Danish version of that. I needed to find an angle that I hadn't seen before, or a way that this could be a very Danish film. So one day I read an article, an interview with an officer going on his third tour to Afghanistan, and he said, I'm not afraid of getting killed down there, I'm afraid of getting prosecuted when I get back home. And that statement was so complex, so I knew I needed to dig in. And then I went to a wedding, and I was at the bar. Wonderful things happen with alcohol, right? And luckily another drunk guy was at the bar. His name was Martin. He's here with us today, and he had served both in Iraq and Afghanistan, and he started to share stories. And before we got too drunk, we agreed to meet up for coffee the next day so that we could remember what had been said. But nevertheless, that became a starting point, and he would bring on all his guys. So I knew at that time. The problem was that 3 years from now, I had twins. So I had promised my wife not to go make another film in 2 years because, it would have killed her probably. So I went to my producers and I said, well, can we start to finance now and maybe we can be ready in 2 years? So a week later than their second birthday, we went. So the machinery had been running, and we are very, very fortunate in Denmark. It's like if you can do a film for a certain budget and you have a script and a good project, the Danish government supports films. We spend a lot of money every year in supporting Danish cinema. They do believe that even though we are a small country of 5.5 million, it's still important that we do cinema, and cinema is one of the things that glues the nation together, the confrontation with the reality we live in together, and the reflection that does, and we are proud of that, and that's one of the reasons that we're here and we're able to make this film. I'm a writer, and one of the first things I did out of film school was to write on TV. We did a TV show called Borgen, and thank you. That taught me how to write on a budget, They won't let you go over budget on writing that. So I'm kind of always talking to my producers, how much money do we have? And they say, well, do a draft that would cost around, let's say, $2 million US. And I go do that. Maybe we have a little more, maybe we have a little less. But we try to aim for a certain amount so that we don't have to bring too much money from the outside in. We want artistic freedom, and the only way we can have that is to to do it and to do it in a financially fair way. So, you know, after 2 years of writing, researching, they had the whole machinery ready, and I could leave my wife and kids and go do this film.
Laszlo, you touched on it earlier, but for your first film, this is what you chose?
Did I?
No, but at what point do you say that, you know, it's going to be hard enough to make my first film, but it's going, you know, I know how difficult this one's going to be, but nevertheless, this is what that I'm dedicated to doing. And then how did you go about getting it financed?
Well, then you have to add the layer that I want to do it with unknown actors, you know.
Right.
So, and also that the approach, you know, it has a very specific visual approach that, you know, is hard to, you know, people to communicate when they didn't see the film. They have to see it. So it's hard to, you know, sell the idea. Well, I read 10 years ago the texts written by the crematorium workers in Auschwitz. Written texts. These texts were hidden by them in the ground of the crematorium. They were, in a way, talking to us, to a future. They didn't know whether there would be a trace of the extermination of the Jews of Europe, but they still, you know, made these documents. And this was an incredible encounter with these people, you know, the dead talking to me, you know. And I thought that this has nothing to do with, you know, this sense of immediacy, the sense of being there, here and now of the extermination. That's something I've never encountered in a film. And I had this intuition that cinema could go where, you know, other art forms couldn't go, in a way. Touch you as a viewer in a visceral way. So I was thinking of how to do it. It took us years with my cinematographers to talk about to design it. And you know, obviously, when you go and say you want to make your first film about the Holocaust, one day in a crematorium, the Sonderkommando. You know, rarely filmmakers have adventured into the zone of the extermination, whereas this is the heart of the Holocaust at the same time. You know, not talking about the few who've survived, but the rule, the dead. I had this sense of mission, you know, to talk to today's audiences when, you know, their impression of the Holocaust is kind of static, as if they were, you know, it was a history book or something taking place on another planet. But what if this took place in our civilization? You know, this remoteness of the feeling of the of hell on earth has never been communicated. And I think that this has relevance because it is our world, it is our civilization. It's not, you know, that far away, you know, in time, and I hope it's not in our future, but it's the permanent possibility. We have to face that. So how do you sell this? I had a hard time, and no one in Europe wanted to finance this film apart from the Hungarians, and it took some time to convince the Hungarians as well. I first wanted the French to finance it, but I couldn't make it happen. It just did. You know, when you go to see a producer nowadays and you say, you know, you lay out the plan and you say it's, you know, they understand it's risky, they turn away from you usually. It's just the ambition and risk and, you know, great risk tend to be avoided. You know that's why I think it you know, what Ciro said is comparable to my experience, but at the same time, producers should, financiers should see that, you know, where there's risk, there might be also, these guys sitting here, and so it was a rough ride, but I'm not complaining. The fact that we made it with very little money, but we could preserve the core ambition of the film, meant that it pushed us to the edge constantly. And we have very complicated 3-4 minute shots in the film. There's no coverage, nothing like that. So if we didn't succeed in making the scene, then there was no film. So yeah, that's in a nutshell.
Nazi, what about your film? At what point did you? Once again, you're a first time director. At what point did you say this is the film that I've got to tell? And how did you even know about how to go to get it financed?
Well, I mean, I've been trying to make films for 10 years. So Theeb is sort of the 5th or 6th screenplay, feature film screenplay that I'd attempted, and they'd all got sort of various levels of finance. It's really difficult to obviously, for all of us, and particularly in the Middle East, it's very difficult to find finance for films. But I don't know, this weird thing happened to myself and my producers, which is that at some point we just said we don't need anyone's permission. I think when maybe it just comes from childhood, you're always expecting to get permission from someone and so that you can go do something. You need the fund to go do something. And I had been so fed up with that we kind of, a switch flicked in all our heads, and we just said, we're not going to get permission, we're just going to do it. Very much like Ciro said, if we have to shoot it on an iPhone or something, we will. In fact, we were going to use Basil's 5D. That was the original plan when we moved down to the desert. And what happens with that is once you have that attitude set and you're walking with your producers forward, people start to gain confidence in what you're doing. And they were very creative. They looked, because we don't have a film industry in Jordan, we're just trying to create one now. They were very creative about the way that they found money, and I don't think that producers get enough credit for the work they do. They're incredibly, not only in the creative aspect, but in the creativity of finding money. And they were amazing. And then, once we'd shot the film, then all the usual funds gave us money because they liked the footage. And it's been a wonderful ride ever since.
It strikes me that all 4 of your films took a lot of courage on somebody's part, on a lot of people's part, to get made and to believe in. With that in mind, and I'll go back to you, Nazi, and you guys can answer this quickly. To what degree did you feel any financial pressure or pressure for the film to be financially successful? Or were you in a situation, as long as it was artistically successful, all of your backers would be pleased?
It's very important because obviously, we were able to get a few sort of investors for the film. We looked at sort of risk-taking entrepreneurs, and so we want to protect them. We want to make sure they get their money back, because otherwise, there may not be another Jordanian film for 10 years or 20 years or however long it will take for people to forget that it didn't make any money. So I felt that pressure acutely. And also I wanted a perfect track record, because my first short film cost $1,000 and I made the money back from my investors and made them a profit. So I wanted my first feature film to do that. So I mean, because we're such a young industry, you do feel that pressure.
Laszlo, what about you? Was it an issue whether or not your film made money? Obviously, everybody wanted to at least break even, but did you feel any pressure at all that it'd be financially successful?
I think if it's artistically successful, it might have a possibility to be successful financially. And that we were always aiming at the artistic success. At least, the plan we had to be, carried out, and that was our ambition, and our ambition were high. So, there was a constant pressure in me to to make this film on budget, on schedule, although we had a very limited amount of time and money. But I didn't, this film is successful. I think financially it is, and I think that's the most important part. You have to, these kind of films can have a life that's much longer than other types of films, and we're not working just for the first weekend. It might take 10 years, hopefully less, but 10 years to be successful or very successful. So I think it's a different mindset. But I think also it's important for filmmakers to try to keep the financial side. It is a factor. So I'm sure all of us are very aware of that.
The reason I ask it, obviously, a lot of us work here in Hollywood, and it is imperative that your film make money, no matter how good it is or isn't. It must make money.
The first weekend?
Yes, exactly. And then on top of that, every now and then I'll talk to filmmakers who come from countries that support the art, are financing some of their movies, particularly Canada. And I've asked them, why are these films so good? Because we've had a number of Canadian films nominated recently, and because they've said because the Film Board of Canada, the goal is not to, it's almost immaterial whether or not the film makes money. Obviously they prefer it, but it's much more that they make a good film and be artistically, something culturally they can be proud of. And it's that sort of, right. Obviously, that sort of governmental support makes all the difference in the world. What about you, Tobias? How concerned were you or weren't you about whether or not your film made money?
Well, Denmark is in the fortunate situation of having a great film institute that gets money from government every year and spend it on making these films. So we are not financially responsible for every dime that we spend, or at least we don't have to make it. Luckily, my producers protect me from all of this. So I'm not taking any chances. I'm basically writing for the amount that we can get for the film. And that's my responsibility, is to keep the budget, is to make sure that the ambitions with the film get through no matter what happens around the money.
They're not telling you who to cast, for instance?
No. Some movies in Denmark is made like that. In this case, luckily, we started out with making the first feature that Pilou and I and the rest of the rock band did together. Costed nothing. I'd never been on a film set when we did that one, so that was educational as well. And I guess that we've kind of proven, because that made business in some way, and I guess that we kind of proven that we can, have this playground to be in together. But basically, I really don't know. My producers protect me, so I'm not worried about the first weekend. I'm worried about whether my editor is going to kill me or not when I get back from shooting. I'm worried about meeting the people whose lives I portray, and that's enough pressure. So I don't really think that much about it. I mean, if we wanted to get rich of this, we would do something else than these films. So here we are. Of course it helps, and it helps politically that we are now nominated for an Oscar. It's fantastic, because that proves that a small country of 5.5 million can make films that constantly will travel the world, and it's because of politicians being courage enough to support art. How rare is that in this world? It's fantastic.
Hear, hear. Ciro, what about you? They expected your movie to be a blockbuster, right? In black and white, unknown actors in the Amazon.
Yeah. Gonzalo was expecting, the Avatar and us. Gonzalo, who was our main investor, he said, I don't care. It wasn't about that. But now the film is a moneymaker, and it's a blockbuster in Colombia.
And it was It was re-released once of the Oscar nomination, right?
Yeah. The Oscar nomination has been a huge thing. But even before, when the film was released in May, audiences just we got a small release. The theater said, this is going to play for a week and it's done. And when it appeared on theaters, people flocked. Those theaters almost exploded. It's record business, and a lot of young people interested in the film, which was exciting because people are interested in traditional ways of life and learning about this. And the film just connected deeply, not only with people in Colombia but around the world. But we also, I forgot to mention when we were talking about setting the film up, we got the support. A very important piece of the support was that we managed to make the film a co-production with Venezuela and Argentina. And basically, the reason this co-production happened is because our wonderful co-producers have a great track record and they have a credibility in their countries, and they believe in us, in what we do. So they said, they come to their film board and say, I think this can be a good film. And I always imagine them in these meetings and people going them, seriously? Really, is this going to work? But Raúl and Horacio Mentastia and Marcelo Céspedes from Argentina, they have the credibility to say, I think this will work. And it did work, and I'm a true believer that there's no bigger way to financial success than to be artistically successful. I believe that. Yeah, artistically, but it pushes you. It pushes you because, going into that set, and I think this applies to all of us, that this film is either going to be a great success or it's going to be a complete disaster. If we don't get it right, this film was going to be a complete disaster. So you're pushing yourself. This needs to be good because if it's bad, there's no way this is going to. So you need to push yourself and make the best of what you have, and you need all the crew to be in that sense. So no one is thinking of the money that they're making. Everyone is just in for the. Let's go make the best movie that we can, and it just shows at the end.
Actually, Ciro's nomination has got us all sales in Colombia as well. So he's so successful that he's making us money. Thank you very much, Ciro.
Yeah, all the films are getting released in Colombia. Everyone is watching them.
Well, I hate to disappoint all four of you artists, but I can safely say that all 5 of these films are in profit. So. I have a question about sort of decisions you make having looked at these movies now on this screen. I'm reminded of the different choices you made in terms of whether or not you shot it on film, shot it in color, shot it in which aspect ratio. A lot of decisions, and none of these is a casual one, or I think probably even a functional one where you said this is all I can do. I have my own rationalization of why you chose which stock you used, how you shot it, what was widescreen. In your case, you're the old Academy aspect ratio. What's 1:33 or something? But anyhow, I want to ask you how you all went about that, and was it a decision you made hand in hand with your cinematographer? Just how, in your case, Ciro, how did you decide to? Why was it in black and white? And you shot it on film, right? 35 millimeter film, which is so rare in Hollywood.
Yes, the film from the very beginning we felt that it needed to be in black and white, and it's difficult to explain because it's just the way that the film has to be, and I've tried to rationalize it for a long time. And I think it just comes from the images of these explorers and the Amazon that you see in those images being completely different to the Amazon that you have in your head. An Amazon that is completely devoid of all the exuberance and exoticism that is usually associated with it. But it's just for me, these images triggered my imagination, and I wanted the film to trigger the audience's imagination. Because it's not possible to portray the colors of the Amazon on any kind of film, I think, and what they mean to the indigenous people of the Amazon. These are people that have 50 different words for what we call green. It's just something that, but imagination has that power, and the film, the Amazon that you see in the film, I cannot say that it's the real Amazon. It's an imagined Amazon, and the Amazon you imagine is certainly going to be more real than the one that we could portray. So many reasons to do it, but we know it was a scary decision for us all. We know that what it meant. And on top of that, we decided that it needed to be film. we did a lot of tests with David and the cinematographer and Christina, the producer. We will watch how it looked on video. It would have certainly been easier to do it on video. But the organic look of film for portraying the jungle and the natural environment and natural light was just irreplaceable. And we wanted to echo these photographic plaques that the explorers took, these almost daguerreotype images, so that there was no way around it. And it meant that the film we had to find stock, look for stock throughout many places. I'm not sure exactly where the final stock was found. I thought it was Spain, but apparently it was somewhere else. And it was old stock, so we didn't know if it was going to be good or not. They did tests in the lab and they said this is good, and we were like, oh my God, we have stock. And it was Fuji stock. So yeah, this is going to be one of the last.
And you said it was developed where in Venezuela, or
no? We had to develop it in Argentina.
Argentina.
That's the last working lab in Southern.
So when would you see your dailies?
Dailies? What is that? We had monthlies, maybe weeklies. I think the first moment in which we saw something from the film was like we were in week 3 or shooting. Week 4. Oh my God. So we were in the blind. And that is so exciting, you know. And we had so little stock that we had 2 takes. Everything that you see in the film is take 1 or take 2. Occasionally take 3. But you know, I think I loved it, and I love the way this happens, because it's like it reminded me of when people took pictures of their families on reels. That every image was valuable, every image was important, every image meant something, and you kept them. And now people take 17,000 images of their vacation and they never look at them again. You know? But in film, you get the same feeling that the camera starts to roll and you feel the money and everything, and everyone is just tremendously focused. And we would stop take 1 and we would look, man, that was great. Should we do another one? Can we do another one? All right, let's do another one. And sometimes it would be better, sometimes it wouldn't be better, but you know, you're not, yeah, it just was just a magical thing that happened. And if we had done any other way, we wouldn't have been able to meet the schedule of the film, because it was such a tight schedule. So you had 2 takes for everything, and it had to be, if we started doing 10 takes of something, we would lose completely the schedule, because we were on so tight. And the film had to be sent and flown into Argentina and developed, and you know, and we just got a call from the lab every week, and you know, it's okay, and we were like, whoa. And then we sat down and watched the images for the first time, and wow, that's a feel. Watching rushes is the worst part of filmmaking for me, because it's always demolishing. You know, you always imagine something and you see it and you're like, oh. It eventually can become better. But in this case, it wasn't like that at all. We just watched these images and we just looked at each other and I said, wow, this is really special. This is really beautiful. I think we're making something beautiful here. So we just went again into the blind and hoped, you know, in some of these experiences, the accidents happen, you know, the reel gets opened in the customs in different countries or something like that. No, nothing like that happened. And Cinecolor in Argentina did a marvelous job. They were so happy to be developing film and to do they really love film and they really love the cinema, and they put all of this energy together, and that's what made this film so special.
Tobias, was yours digital?
Yes, we shot digital. We shot on Alexa, and we've done that for the 3 films that we've done together. I put a lot of responsibility on the shoulders of my cinematographer, Magnus Jönk. We try to build the films as you would shoot a documentary. And the reason for this is simple. The scene we see here is a refugee family that we found in a refugee camp in Turkey. They're not actors. And I would feel ignorant for me to, you know, control and decide what their reality is. I need them to add that. So if I came with a script that I wanted to prove my version of their reality, it would be a white man's version of something. You know, I'm heterosexual, I'm tall, I'm blonde, I'm from Scandinavia. I mean, that's pretty privileged in the political world. So who would I be to go out and you know, claim that I understood their lives? So, we cannot afford to shoot this on film. It's impossible because we do takes that's 2 hours long, 1.5 hour long. And I need them to add whatever they can. So in this case, we would do the full day. We would shoot with the family arriving. And they know this feeling because they have arrived to camps before. I haven't. So I just needed to follow them. And then on top of that, we would get translators from the Danish military to act as translators. So the actors didn't know exactly what was going to be said to them. They had to wait for the translator to translate it live. So they didn't just wait for their time to say their lines. They were actually reacting to what happened right in front of them. And that's not possible for me to do on film. So in that way, I love the possibilities of shooting. I'm not sure my editor loves it that much. We bring home a lot of material. But nevertheless, we open up for, there's a Danish filmmaker called Jørgen Leth, and he talks about, a great filmmaker, and he talks about the opportunities of mistakes, where life happens in front of you. And I love that. I'm a screenwriter, I'm used to controlling everything, sitting in my office and deciding, being God. So to go out there and actually, just letting it live and see what happens with it, and then take control of it again in the editing room, is a huge privilege. So that's how we do it, and that's how we've been shooting. And I mean, the soldiers that I worked with, they're not actors, they're soldiers. So I needed to change timing all the time to make sure that they reacted. So they wouldn't know when explosions would happen. We would change the timing of that. But that gave them the opportunity to just go in and be professionals and do what they do best, be soldiers, instead of trying to, support me and the camera. They could just go in, and then me and Magnus could try to draw the story in that. And we do the same with the sound. It's all done live. So all the radio communication, all the telephone calls is done live. And we just tap the line. So I have an officer by my side in the monitor, and he sits and he gives commands on the radio to the soldiers. They never know what's going to be said. And he speaks their language, I don't, so it pushes them and it makes them react to the reality we're in instead of trying to recreate my version of a reality. And I enjoy that, and that's the only way we can do it. So I salute the digital.
But it sounds like your decision is more a functional one than an aesthetic one.
Definitely it is, and there's no doubt about it. And I can totally appreciate when I see film. I haven't seen Thief yet. When we saw the footage of that, I was just, what a wonderful job. Is your DOP right here? Wow, great job, man. And I do believe that there is a human feeling to that everybody can feel. It's just not a tool in my box. Right. So I have to do the best I can without it. And in that way, try to find a new way. How can we get the best of it? How can we use the digital? We can shoot so much material. And that gives me pleasure because it can keep the process living. I'm used to sitting writing these screenplays, and we all know that something has to happen in turning page 17 or whatever. And it's controlled, and I love that. But I also love that it can just live on and go crazy while we're there, and this is the only way. So it's definitely a functional choice, yeah.
Laszlo, you shot on film, was it 35 or 16?
35.
35. And at what point from the very beginning did you decide to shoot 1:3:3? And those of you who don't know, that's an aspect ratio that's a little bit almost like a box, as you can tell. It's
actually an homage to the Academy.
Yes.
That's
right. It's the official
that's why
Academy
we wanted to shoot
aspect.
Academy. It is called Academy, and it's hard now to find the right gate for it. Sometimes when we want to project the 35mm print of it, it was never a question whether we would shoot digital. For the projects I'm thinking about, or my projects, I'm not interested in digital. I really like the texture and the depth of film, and I'm just saying that it's great that Tobias could make his film on digital. It's just that I like film to be around so that it remains an option for us, so we can shoot on film. His spirit is trying to.
I understand the two of you almost got into a fist fight yesterday.
And the funny thing is that I'm sorry that actually I have to say Ciro never seen his real film, because I think you've never seen it on 35. Which is very sad. You know, I'm sure that the first shot that we saw here with the man from behind, and you see the boat coming in from the you know, outside on the river on film. I'm sure you can see the details in the highlight. In digital, it's washed out.
Yeah, and David knows a little bit more about this, but we're hoping to be able to make a print of the film. We weren't able to make a print of the film, but now that the film is everything that happened, possibilities are opening up, and I still guard in my heart the dream that I will one day, hopefully soon, I will be able to see a print, a 35 print.
I'm sure that it should be it should be seen on 35, and there's a difference, and maybe yours should be seen on 35 too. No, seriously, you don't want to see it? I'm sure you would love it. And the thing is that. That's what we lost, first and foremost. It's the possibility of seeing films on film. And I'm really glad that Sony Classics was supportive and wanted this film to be around, my film, to be around on 35 as much as possible. So we had like 25 prints on 35 in the US, and it was screened here on 35. And it's a different experience. The flicker is something that makes your mind go through a hypnotic experience.
It's not just the romance of it.
You know,
it's not just the romance of that it's film over.
No, it's a hypnotic effect. It is a physiological effect that we're losing because of television. You know, coming to these places, which are, you know, I'm really trying to make that understood for young people. Who are filmmakers, aspiring filmmakers, that there's something that you cannot, we're losing film is something that we cannot replace. And so it was never, we talked about aspect ratio, I have to tell you, for 2 years with my cinematographer, and we hesitated between widescreen, anamorphic, and 1:3:3. And eventually we chose the Academy aspect ratio because we didn't want to make a spectacle out of the background. It would have given too much of the background, and we wanted to this film to be a portrait, and we felt that the Academy aspect ratio was the right one for this portrait, and the fact that we had to test. With the lenses that were right for the out of focus range, because out of focus in this film becomes a storytelling principle, element, very strong one. And so we had extensive tests before the film, and it was very interesting to see how the with the out of focus moving, how it changes the meaning of the film. It had to be realistic, but at the same time, we couldn't do an abstract. We didn't want to do an abstract film, but we didn't want to go. We wanted to preserve the fact that the audiences had to project their imagination onto the film.
Nazi?
So in terms of sort of logistics and finance and things, pretty much everything Ciro said, just replace jungle with desert, and you have, it was amazing, like everything he was saying about rushes and everything, it's all the same. It was an aesthetic choice. We shot on Super 16 anamorphic, and really this is about the relationship that I had with Wolfgang and all the incredible things that he brought to the table, not just creatively, but we're working with his lab, Listo, in Austria, in Vienna. I think he got help with the camera deals and everything. And the wonderful thing about him, and the reason why we were so excited to work with him is, and I'm not using this lightly, he is a master of shooting on film and on Super 16 in particular. I don't know if you can shout out Wolfgang, but he's hundreds and hundreds of documentaries.
Did you say Super 16?
Yeah, we shot on Super 16 anamorphic. And he's a master of it. And he's, not just wonderful, sort of in terms of painting with light and all these things, but also I kind of describe it like he's a jazz musician because he's an incredible operator as well. And he can find an image live like a jazz musician improvises. And that was very important because our actors were extremely talented, and we workshopped, they're all non-actors from the Bedouin community. And although they're very talented, it's a lot to demand of someone to know blocking and ask them to do complicated blocking maneuvers. To ask an amateur actor, a non-actor to do that is very difficult. And so the wonderful thing about Wolfgang is he could find those moments following the actors, moving with them, letting them behave naturally within the space, not dictating where they have to move, and that frees the actors. And it's wonderful when you have a master like Wolfgang who really can find those images and is like his own human Steadicam, and then all the improvisations he did, like we created the camel Steadicam. So he invented the camel Steadicam. The merging of animal and machine for the first time.
You never know when that'll come in handy.
Will have loved it. David Lean would have been thankful for that.
Yeah. So I mean, it was all down to him.
It's often said that directing is the loneliest job on a movie set, and even though he or she has 60, 80, 100 people willing to do whatever it is they want, they're pretty much alone, and the final responsibility comes down to the director. Who is, when you're shooting, who is your biggest ally or collaborator? Who can come to you and say, I don't think this is working, we need to wrap and come back tomorrow when the actors are better, or whatever else? Or are you completely alone? Because often I'll talk to major directors who will say that they've got nobody to talk to. They'll have 7 producers, but nobody who really they feel that has the good of the film at heart. And it's one thing to talk to the cameraman, but he or she may be more concerned about the images, whatever. So I'm curious who, if anybody, each one of you feels like you can turn to in the heat of battle. Ciro?
Yeah, I'm going to be very frank here, because I'm going to talk about the one thing that I feel like I failed during the process of filmmaking. This film wasn't supposed to have credits. This film was supposed to be an anonymous film in a way. It's supposed to be Amazonian people understand the world in a way that in which things should be made as a collective gift to the world. And I really dreamed for the film to be this, a collective. It wasn't a matter of who made it and who did this and who did that. And it's really bugging me for a long time to take credit for the film, because in this film in particular, for contractual reasons, we had to put the credits and everything. But in this film in particular, we all made it together. And this crew and the cast, they just went to much further away than what they usually go. And there was a moment in the film, there were several moments that are in the film that I don't feel that I was directing. That we only have one shot, we only have a few moments of light, and this is not properly rehearsed, go for it. And what would happen would be something that I can understand. I cannot understand how this worked. So for me, making this film destroyed many of my ideas about directing, and I never felt that I was alone. It has happened to me in my previous films, that you feel that for the crew and who are there, film is an adventure, and whether it works or doesn't work, they're doing their job and they're enjoying it, and I've looked at them and felt envious, because you see the director and producer. In our cases, the director and producer are like racks on the floor, and they're completely destroyed, and everyone is having a great time. It's tough, but everyone is becoming friends and having girlfriends on set, and having affairs and having adventures and enjoying. But producer and director are usually on the floor, completely destroyed because of the pressure. And sometimes I wish I could go do sound on a film and just do something that I love. But it's okay if the film is good or bad. It's just the craftsmanship of filmmaking is something that I really adore, and we as directors and producers, we have to deal with all the other part, the financing and the releasing and all these things that for me are not the craftsmanship of filmmaking. But in this case, you know, I was, when the shooting started, I was so scared. I didn't know if this was going to be as what this was going to be. And the crew just worked together in such a humane, spiritual way. There was such a deep connection with the environment and everything that I just yeah, it's difficult for me to want to think of myself as a director. I'm just a member of this crew, and we have come together as a family for a long time. So it's yeah, it's a very special movie. I don't think this is a process that I can ever repeat again. But yeah, so yeah, definitely I wasn't alone in directing the film, and I'm not alone now. And this film, it's hopefully the film itself and its story keeps me company always, all the time. Sorry.
Tobias?
Of course, at the end of the day, as a director, you have, and it sounds like that you have directed pretty much there, but just to make the decisions to let it free, to let everybody offer in, is a director's decision, right? And of course, but I never feel lonely. I always have one of my producers, René Ezra, by my side. He never interferes, but he's always there when I need him. So when in doubt, you know, ask René. That gives me great comfort, and it illuminates the feeling of loneliness. We are together in that, we're going all the way, and on set, he's the guy who's always by my side. In the shooting, I'm very close working with my cinematographer, of course. We are together now filling out the frame that we've set up. I find it interesting that I'm writing the story, and everybody, I sent, you know, drafts to everybody in my gang here, and then I take notes, and it's not for them to make decisions, it's just to get an idea and let them chip in what we're gonna spend, you know, the next year doing together. And from then on, when we start to shoot, I'm very close with Magnus, my cinematographer. As soon as that's done, I'm very, very close with my editor. We always end up in 2 weeks where we lock ourselves in the editing room. Me and Adam, my editor, and René Ezra, and we buy a bottle of rum. And then we turn every stone and look at everything and discuss everything.
Liquor has a lot to do with your career.
That's why the new film I'm writing for Thomas Vinterberg is called Drunk. Actually, because we found some Hungarian footage on YouTube with 2 guys who was really drunk. Yeah. And then we sit, you know, and then we take a look at everything. And then I take the film and I go to Morten, my sound designer, who's amazing. And then I make the film with him. So I'm never lonely, there's always one. And it's a great feeling, and I do believe, you know, I'm a soccer player. I love teamwork. I love to be part of a team. I love to be able to, you know, they're here today. I love that feeling of being part of something. So you know, we have built a machine where I'm never lonely, and I appreciate that.
Laszlo?
Well, alcohol has very little to do with my life, I have to tell you. But I should try, maybe. You know, this film has 85 shots, something like that. It's very, you know, it's not very. We don't have a lot of options. We didn't have a lot of options, and we designed a film for the most part in advance. Although the fact that it's handheld camera we have those longer shots meant that chaos couldn't be avoided, and in a way chaos was good for the film because it became a mixture of organization and chaos, as in the camps the life was based on those two forces as well. First day I arrived on the shoot, I locked myself in one of those containers we had. We don't have trailers for this kind of film. We had containers. And I said to myself, there's no way I'm going to do this film. There's no way I'm going to go out and do this film. I had a terrible headache. I slept for 20 minutes and everybody was having breakfast. So I felt that everybody else than me are, you know, it's just you're so isolated in a way. It's just they're having a nice breakfast, and I am here in the shadows and with this terrible headache, and I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to do this whole thing. But then you get used to it, and everybody, I think you can get used to everything, you know. In a way, that's what the film is also about, in a way. But in a way, I'm wrong. You know, I was wrong. These people, even they're not obviously the directors, but so many people in the, you know, around me in the creative crew who were giving everything to this film. And, you know, before I run to the producers crying, it happens very rarely, but I usually have a few very important people around me on the set, around the monitor, and you know, we talk about the film. It's just we never lose focus. We never lost the focus, the deep meaning of the film. And the cinematographer is key in this process, Matjaž. He's not only, you know, putting some light on in the film and you know, having the camera because he operated it. He never loses the focus of the meaning of the film, and that's a great gift. That what does this, you know, the scene is about? What does this image is about? We never lose that, and they helped me along with my editor who was on the set, Mathieu, who's a French guy, and he was very important because we had a very limited amount of shots. So it was important to design this film before the set and on the set. So all the editorial decisions, almost all of them, had to be made during the shoot, which even makes it you know, more dangerous. And obviously, I had this feeling of being on the edge constantly. Mathieu said we were making a prototype. We don't know what we'll end up with. And Clara, the screenwriter, who's also French, was there. And it's weird because we speak in French with, you know, Clara and Mathieu, and I grew up in Paris, and I speak in Hungarian with, you know, a lot of people, with the cinematographer and, you know, the assistants, and I speak in English with the actors who do not speak these languages. So it was a Babel, you know, and I felt myself like a translator at sometimes, and you know, just this mindset of I have this shepherd dog instinct. Also, I was an assistant director, so I just to keep the focus is so important to have these people around me and never forget what this film is about. And the fact that we made these complicated shots allowed us to immerse ourselves as cast and crew, to be in the situation, in the real situation, not just, you know, you know, we were in time and space that were, you know, we shared with the story, and we were in 1944, and everybody had this feeling at times of being scared or overwhelmed, and I was glad to have these people, because otherwise I couldn't have made this film.
Nazi?
Well, I think kind of what's happened is because we're just trying to start out with the film industry in Jordan, so we're not part of an industry. I've never worked in the industry, and I've never worked on a professional film set.
And yet a lot of films are made in Jordan, foreign films.
Well, my crew is world class, and they've worked on all those films, but I hadn't experienced them, and I hadn't gone to film school and stuff. So we kind of made our own sociology the way that we wanted to create it, which is very much a collaboration, and I kind of consider myself like the filter. You know, everyone is bringing me ideas, which is the funnest part of directing, because you're not really actually doing anything. You're just being entertained by wonderfully talented people, bringing you ideas, and you're going, oh, I'll have that one, I'll have that one, thank you very much. So it's an incredible experience, and in that sense, I never felt lonely or pressured or alone or anything like that. Actually, the weird thing that's happened is it's after the film is finished and the film has become a success that you find yourself becoming isolated from your team, because what tends to happen is everyone focuses on the director. And this is something I talked about yesterday in the event. So as soon as you start going to the film festivals, the film festival will only invite you as the director. They'll only pay for you to fly out. They'll only pay for your hotel. So you start spending a lot of time alone and getting all the credit. And that, I think, creates problems. And it makes me uncomfortable because it's not in the spirit of the way the film was made. Specifically with the Bedouin, because, the whole process was living with them, and they are the kind of co-authors of the film. It's all from their storytelling and their experiences and their hospitality in taking us in the first place and allowing us to live in their community and for a year. And, they didn't know anything about film. They didn't care about film. They thought we were just crazy. And because of their hospitality, they just took us in. So that has made me very uncomfortable. And I'm really, aside from this being the Academy Awards and this being an amazing end to this incredible journey, for me, I've felt really great that, hardly any, but at least I have some of my team with me to share this moment, because I haven't usually had that on the road over the last year and a half. And they haven't got credit and they haven't been called out like they have here today. So thank you very much for doing that, and thank you very much to my team. I'm very happy to be here.
And it's one of the things I'm particularly pleased about last night's event and today, because the ceremony, obviously only so many people can go, but it's just wonderful the number of cast and crew members who come in. Would you share with me what you mentioned last night? A remarkable, really remarkable, perhaps once in history. I think you feel that way.
Well, I just think this is a perfect illustration of the power of cinema. Yesterday, we'd given these speeches and we'd received these certificates from the Academy. And obviously, we've only usually hung out together in the previous process, but now our teams are here and everyone's getting a chance to meet each other. And I just saw this image of my lead actor, Jasser Eid, from the desert of Wadi Rum, from a nomadic Bedouin community, shaking hands with your actor and someone from the Amazonian Indian from the rainforest. And these two worlds, I'm pretty positive, for the first time in history, met. And that's the magic of the movies.
Right.
And you turn around and you see them talking to Kate Blanchett.
Yeah.
And then, and then I saw Antonio talking to the survivor of the Sonderkommando, who is 93 years old and speaks perfect Spanish, and they started talking. And I was like, oh my God, this different universes coming together. How can this be?
One of the things I'm proudest of about this committee and these events is that these guys, and I'm sorry that Denise is not here, get to spend this much time together, because you realize how much they're not in some competition. They happen to be here. The Oscars are fantastic. They're very honored to be nominated, but they're meeting fellow filmmakers, and clearly, despite this fisticuffs that apparently almost happened here, digital versus film, they get along great, and they've seen these guys last night and at lunchtime. Maybe it still can't come to blows. I don't know, but it's just it's fantastic to see the camaraderie. And I can't tell you, somebody who's produced a lot of movies, to hear the four of you give so much credit to so many other people, and it's. It's not It's not cosmetic. It clearly is sincere. And all of you, yes, indeed, you are directors, but you're giving so much more credit to your cast and your crew for the films that we've seen. I have to say, on behalf of the Foreign Language Committee, on behalf of the Academy, we are so honored to have the four of you, the five of you, one of you in absentia. I'm so proud of your films, and thank you for gracing us on this stage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.